Coming up, a lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies and their role in the opioid epidemic goes to trial. A Missouri prisoner counts down the minutes to his execution. And if you filed for a tax extension in one of our 4 states and still have not paid, deadline is almost here.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good Tuesday morning and welcome to the Koam Morning News. It is 5 o'clock. I'm Michael Hayslip. We're going to have mild temperatures for the next 2 days. Chance for scattered rain here middle of the week. And then we'll get hit with a little dose of summer here before we get to the weekend. There's a live look over 7th and Range line. A little bit cool out there. Down to 50 degrees is where we're sitting. As a matter of fact, we've got a couple 40s still sitting on the board. Pittsburgh is at 48, along with Fort Scott. Nevada at 49. Look at that, a whole bunch of 50s running from Oswego to Miami through Joplin into Carthage and Lamar. And Chanute sitting at 54. Chanute looks like our only place right now to really establish itself in the mid-50s. Clean Skywatch storm tracker, clear as can be. Beautiful shot of the stars and the moon out tonight. The big trough of the jet stream, instead of coming out of Canada right now, really coming off of the Great Lakes all the way down past the Gulf. And grabbing that Gulf moisture is going to feed it thunderstorm activity right through the Tennessee River Valley. On the backside of it, a whole bunch of high pressure, so really no worries for us today. You can tell that severe thunderstorm risk map throws it just on the other side of the Mississippi and then runs it almost to the northeastern portion of the United States, and then they'll have some monsoonal rain in the southwest as well. We're going to be in the mid-70s with plenty of sunshine. Really not going to see any cloud cover begin to develop until we get into the afternoon hours. Here's future track. Got everything that kind of works in from the northeast, and well, we got a slight chance for a raindrop or two today. I mean, if you want to take the umbrella, if it makes you feel better, I understand. And then the cloud cover actually keeps us from getting too low overnight. It'll probably be high 50s, low 60s. Here we go on Wednesday. Got that counterclockwise motion that spins off of the Ozarks. Throws scattered showers our way throughout Wednesday afternoon, early evening, but then clearing off, so we shouldn't have any travel concerns by any means. And when we talk about a 7-day forecast, then we'll be talking about the heat wave after the rain rolls through. Thursday is going to be in the high 70s, not too bad, but then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is not a taste of fall. That is a taste of what we would expect probably in September, as temperatures are around 90 for Friday and Saturday and still even mid-80s there for Sunday. A landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland, Ohio. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains: CVS, Walgreens, Eagle Giant, and Walmart. It's legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chain that dispensed hundreds of prescriptions should be held responsible for the cost of opioid addictions. The pharmacies have denied any wrongdoing, with the trial expected to last 6 or 7 weeks. Missouri Governor Mike Parson denies clemency to a death row inmate despite calls from across the world. Pope Francis joined the chorus of people calling on Governor Parson to grant clemency to Ernest Johnson for killing 3 people during a 1994 convenience store robbery. Johnson is scheduled to die by injection at 6 o'clock this evening at the state prison in Bonne Terre. The 61-year-old's attorney, Jeremy Weiss, said executing Johnson violates the U.S. Constitution that prohibits executing intellectually disabled people. If Johnson is put to death today, it would be the 7th execution in the United States this year, but the first not involving either a federal inmate or an inmate in Texas. 4 staters who asked for an extension on their tax returns are running out of time. Deadline is in just a couple of weeks. It's actually October 15th, and you had around 131,000 Kansans that asked for an extension. To avoid delays, the IRS urging everyone to file electronically. There are some taxpayers who might actually have more time. An IRS spokesman says military members and others serving in combat zones normally have 180 days after they leave the zone to file and pay any due taxes. The spokesman also said taxpayers in federally declared disaster areas who already had valid extensions may have their deadlines extended. Pitt State handed out its vaccination incentives to eligible students, university giving students until September 17th to submit proof of vaccination for a $500 scholarship and to be entered into a drawing to win an $8,500 scholarship. Nearly 4,500 students were eligible, 55% of those submitting valid vaccination records and got the incentives. University employees who were vaccinated each received a $1,000 incentive. Those incentives funded by the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. Pfizer announces a new COVID-19 vaccine will be needed by mid-2022. Now, despite the announcement, one local pharmacist we spoke with says new vaccines are not anything new. In fact, the flu vaccine is new every year because changes to combat the expected flu strain change with the upcoming seasons. Chad Isaacs with Stone's Corner Pharmacy says we should expect the same with COVID vaccines as time goes on.
But that vaccine's going to change too. Just like the flu vaccine, we're going to have changes because of that virus changing and mutating. You know, the Delta variant and other things have cropped up, and the current vaccine has still been pretty effective against that. But come next year and years to come, that may change.
Coming up in our next hour, we'll hear more from Isaacs on similarities between the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine, and why your flu shot is still very important. Joplin City Council approving an ordinance last night for architectural design services for a new fire station. New station will be on a 2-acre lot in the approximate area of 30th and Jaguar Road. Paragon Architecture LLC, it's a company out of Springfield. It's going to handle the services, which cost more than $290,000.
Provides a lot of flexibility and needed coverage in an area that's growing with a lot of valuable property. Being near the industrial park, it's positioned well for future growth and expansion, and so it'll be a great addition and really improve the safety services for our community.
Council member Phil Stennett voted against the ordinance. One reason why, Stennett saying he believes a local company could have done the project. The council also approved a $2 million ordinance to replace the Joplin Creek interceptor. 1,000 trees are finding new homes in Joplin and Kansas City. Spire Natural Gas partnered with Forest Relief of Missouri to redistribute the trees as part of what Spire calls its commitment to communities and the environment. Spire volunteers loaded and transported the trees to 25 organizations, including churches, neighborhood associations, and city parks. Picked up, no cost. Volunteer effort part of Spire's Day for Good initiative, which gives employees 8 hours of paid leave each year to support an organization or cause of their choice. KOAM General Manager Danny Thomas, he's now a Hall of Famer. The Kansas Association of Broadcasters inducted Mr. Thomas into its Hall of Fame during a ceremony over the weekend. Danny has served for 34 years at our stations. During that time, oversaw the launch of our sister station, Fox 14, KOAM, #1 station in the market, spearheaded numerous telethons, including one that helped launch construction of the Ronald McDonald House. The KAB Hall of Fame Award is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by the Kansas Association of Broadcasters. From all of us here, congratulations, Mr. Thomas. You know, especially myself, you know I owe you a huge debt of gratitude. Future track. All right, any chance we see you for today? Rain's going to be light, not going to amount to much. We'll see a little afternoon cloud cover begin to develop. Temperatures right now, we've got some high 40s still on the board. We got a better shot for scattered rainfall on Wednesday afternoon. Now, along with the cloud cover, remember that really helps our overnight lows as well. Turns counterclockwise on us, so the Ozarks and central Missouri. And then we begin a warm up. Friday's not going to be too hot by any means, but Saturday, look at the reemergence of some 90s, and then 84 on Sunday. That is a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KM Morning News, the Frontenac Raiders reach a milestone. Plus, our something to talk about asking, if you had the opportunity to see that, would you go play hooky? And how recently have you done it? COVID numbers in Kansas also on the downturn. You're watching the KOM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Webb City Cardinals taking to the road to McDonald County. A little non-conference matchup on the softball diamond. Matt Coe, 16-5 on the year. And the Mustangs jump out to an early lead. J.C. Franken, double off the back of the wall. That brings in Carly Cooper. In the third, Madeline McCall doubles down the third base line. 2 runs are going to score. Just like that, Mustangs up 3-0, and they're going to keep their foot on the gas. Got runners on base for Mariana Salas. Salas says, watch this, I'm going to clear this real fast. What a day for McDonald County. Ends the game in just 4 innings. Dominant 15-zip win over Webb City. Frontenac Raiders on the football field improved to a 4-1 record. Beat Burlington 42-6 on Friday. Not only a win, but a night of celebration for the program.
The Frontenac Raiders reached a special milestone in last week's win over Burlington.
I thought the crowd was great. The energy from the kids they were excited. The kids handled it well. They focused on the game plan and they executed it pretty well.
In their 100th season, the Raiders record their 700th win.
After the game, we got this banner that says 700th win, and it's going to be on our stadium now every time that we play, and it's just going to be cool to look back and see that and remember what we did.
To be able to do it at home is a cool thing. To be able to do it this same night we honored the 100-year reunion, had all the alumni come back. It almost worked out perfect.
I was very thankful and honored to be a part of that, and all the old football players coming out and watching us. It was really cool feeling.
The Frontenac football program now has the second most wins all time in the state of Kansas.
It shows the school's had tremendous coaches, tremendous players for decades on decades, and when everybody comes out on a Friday night, it's a special night.
There's a lot of pride that comes with wearing a Frontenac jersey.
This school has done great things in the past, some Olympic runners and some really great state championship titles. And every time I put it on, I just feel honored to be able to be a part of that, something bigger than myself.
This accomplishment is a step in the right direction towards the Raiders' larger goal.
The goal is to get the ring, but along the way, getting a 700th win it's really cool for our program.
Hopefully the kids saw how important it is, and they can kind of lead us into the next 100 wins and get to 800 here soon.
Not only to head coach Mark Smith and his current players, but a hearty congratulations to everyone who's coached at Frontenac and ever played there as well. Frontenac's next assignment takes them on the road. That'll be against Anderson County on Friday. Chiefs picked up a much-needed win on the road Sunday against the Eagles. Andy Reid making NFL history, recording his 100th win with multiple franchises. Of course, the first franchise he did that with was the team he beat, the Eagles. Offensive shootout with the Chiefs coming out on top, 42-30. Patrick Mahomes, 278 yards, 5 touchdowns, connecting with Tyreek Hill on 3 of those scores. Hill's now tied for 4th place in total receiving touchdowns in Chiefs history. Coming home with a win in whatever fashion, that was the most important task, and the Chiefs managed to get it done.
We want to win football games. Tyreek, obviously, we want to get him involved as much as possible. But if we need to use him to get someone else open, he's willing to do that. Today, Travis didn't have this big game that he always has. But if you would have saw him on the sideline, you just saw the leader that he was. He's getting everybody going every single time, not letting the energy go down. And I think that shows the type of guys that we have on this team. Is obviously everybody wants to have big games every single game, but at the end of the day, it's about winning. And I think we have guys that understand that.
Still to come on the KOM Morning News, how Portugal has set the standard for COVID vaccinations. And a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOM Morning News returns. A little past 5:17, roll weather on the 7s. To begin with our daily almanac on an October the 5th. That average low 52 degrees, so the fact that we're seeing some high 40s right now mixed in with the low 50s really can't come as too much of a surprise. There we are over 7th and Rangeline, sitting at an even 50 degrees. We've got everything ranging from 54 in Chanute down to 48, where we see that in Fort Scott. Everybody else stuck in between 49 and 53. Let's roll 50 in Miami, 52 in Monette, and 50 in Independence. Clean Skywatch storm tracker. We will get a little afternoon and evening cloud development. We'll talk about why that's not a bad thing here in just a little bit. Jet stream sweeping from the Great Lakes all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. Grabs that Gulf moisture, feeds it right back up through portions of Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. That's really where they'll see some severe thunderstorm activity for today, with the rain stretching all the way to the mid-Atlantic. And then we've already got some monsoonal action in Arizona down in the deep southwest. Speaking of a little tropical rain, I want to point this out right here. It is not a named storm and probably won't become this weekend. But this little thing right here, well, it's moving northwest toward the mid-Atlantic seaboard. And so that's the one thing that we will pay attention to, because eventually it's going to interact with a low pressure system on the southeastern portion of the United States. Back here in the 4 states, highs in the mid-70s, absolutely delightful for our Tuesday. And then there's your overnight cloud cover, and that helps our temperatures kind of stay out of the high 40s like we're seeing right now. As we work into Wednesday afternoon, that's our best shot for a little scattered rain. Certainly nothing severe, nothing substantial like what we had last week. Then we talk about a warm-up, as we're going to shoot up into the 80s and 90s by the time we get to the weekend. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Something to Talk About. As a teenager in Atlanta, Georgia, sat out a history exam, but got an A-list absence excuse from a Broadway superstar. Give you a hint, Alexander Hamilton.
Ms. Rossner, this is Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm sorry he can't be in U.S. history class right now, but he's with me.
When 16-year-old Luke Stevens got a chance to get a school absence excuse recorded by Hamilton superstar Lin-Manuel Miranda himself, he decided, I am not throwing away my shot. Miranda recorded the video message while attending an event in Atlanta, organized by Luke's mom, Tamara Stevens, a local political activist. Luke missed a history test for the event, so Miranda recorded a message for his teacher.
We're going to go over Bill of Rights and anything you may be covering right now. We cover a lot of it in about 2.5 hours at Hamilton, but we're going to go over it in specifics now, so this is not lost time. Thank you for excusing him from class.
Luke's teacher later tweeted her reaction to the video, saying she was freaking out while the other students were taking the test, and that she plans to use songs from Hamilton in future lessons.
Our question to you, when's the last time you played hooky? It doesn't have to be from school. We can be talking about work as well. Just go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via Facebook if Mr. Zuckerberg has it up and going today. Ooh, don't tell him I said that. Healthwatch next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, today there are roughly 50 fewer people hospitalized with COVID-19 in Wichita than there were 3 weeks ago. For health systems there, that is a significant decrease and a hopeful sign that this trend will continue.
For the first time since early July, Sedgwick County hospitals are seeing decreases in the amount of COVID-19 patients coming in for help. That number dropped from 206 to 157 in 3 weeks. There are also 15 fewer patients with COVID in the ICU. Wichita hospitals aren't the only ones seeing this trend. Dr. Dana Hawkinson at the University of Kansas Health System in Kansas City says its numbers are improving too.
Here at the health system right now we have 21 active infections. The hospital numbers are probably the best bellwether of the actual impact of infections that we're currently dealing with.
Meanwhile, hospitalization numbers remain steady at smaller health systems throughout the state. Hutchinson Regional Medical Center and Salina both seeing steady numbers. St. Catherine Hospital in Garden City says for the most part its numbers are stable as well, but it has seen a slight decrease lately.
We're seeing a decrease. I wouldn't say it's been significant, but in the last week and a half or so, it certainly has, the numbers certainly have declined. I would say a handful.
While numbers remain somewhat steady in some of those smaller regional hospitals, this isn't the worst they've seen since the pandemic started, and these numbers are manageable for now, but still they would like to see their numbers drop by about 5 to 10 COVID patients each. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
40s and 50s now. Got some patchy fog beginning to develop. Highs today around 75. Back right after this.
Coming up, a lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies and their role in the opioid epidemic goes to trial. And a Missouri prisoner counts down the minutes to his execution. Also, if you filed for a tax extension in Kansas and still have not filed, the deadline is almost here.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll go straight to Michael on the forecast.
Yeah, fog not too bad over 7th and Rangeline. We are seeing it begin to develop just a little bit, and that is because it's another morning with very high humidity, all the way up to 93%. It's also a little bit chilly out there. 50 right now in Joplin, and we've dropped as low as 48 in Pittsburgh and in Fort Scott. Monette's at 52, Miami at 50, Neodesha at 49. Clear as can be. Great shot of the stars and the moon. As a matter of fact, Midwest remains quiet. Second consecutive day, you've got to drop east of the Mississippi to find the action, and as you see it roll in off the Gulf Coast right there through portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Left-hand side's where you got the monsoonal rain for portions of Arizona, and it just mimics the old severe thunderstorm risk map. That'll push off toward the mid-Atlantic here by the end of the day. 4 states, if we see anything, it's going to be a slight raindrop or two for tomorrow. We'll get a little bit more widespread on Wednesday than what we will Tuesday, as Future Track just wants to spit a little bit in from the east. But now, as we get into Wednesday afternoon, watch the counterclockwise motion, especially east of the Ozarks right there. It just kind of spins it off our way. Certainly not looking at anything severe, and the majority of the 4 states will remain dry. After that, we will begin our jaunt back up to around 90 degrees that'll last for Friday and Saturday. Then we temper it back off just in time for Sunday and Monday.
Yeah, the temperatures yesterday were just grand.
That was about perfect, yep.
Yeah, it was nice. Let's continue this on. All right, thanks, Michael. A landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains in a legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Naomi Ruckham has more on the trial from New York.
Pharmacies doled out a never-ending parade of prescription painkillers in Lake and Trumbull counties in Northeast Ohio between 2012 and 2016, enough for 400 pills for every person who lived in Trumbull County. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chains that dispensed many of those prescriptions, CVS, Walgreens, Giant Eagle, and Walmart, should be held responsible for the costs of opioid addictions. Another chain, Rite Aid, reached a settlement with the counties. Opening arguments began Monday in a jury trial, the first time pharmacy companies have gone to trial for their potential role in the opioid crisis. Another federal lawsuit in Ohio against the nation's 3 largest drug distribution companies was settled for $260 million just before it went to trial in 2019.
This settlement helps us address the mitigation of the terrible damage that's been caused.
Fawn Goodell is the director of Ohio Start, a program that works with families struggling with substance abuse.
How bad really is it in Ohio from your eyes?
Currently this year, the last statistics that I had heard, we are on pace to have more overdoses this year than we did in 2017, which is when we think of the height of the opioid epidemic.
If the counties win in court, any judgment could be used to tackle the crisis.
We need to make sure that we're getting services to families and kids any way we can, and sometimes that comes through money and accountability.
The trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks.
A lawyer representing the Ohio county said in his opening statement that oversight failures by the pharmacy chains help fuel the opioid crisis. Missouri Governor Mike Parson denies clemency to a death row inmate despite calls from across the world. Pope Francis joined the chorus of people calling on Governor Parson to grant clemency to Ernest Johnson for killing 3 people during a 1994 convenience store robbery. Johnson is scheduled to die by injection at 6 p.m. tomorrow at the state prison in Bonne Terre. The 61-year-old's attorney, Jeremy Weiss, has said executing Johnson would violate the U.S. Constitution. It prohibits executing intellectually disabled people. If Johnson is put to death tomorrow, it would be the 7th execution in the U.S. this year, but the first not involving either a federal inmate or an inmate in Texas. 4 staters who asked for an extension on their tax returns are running out of time on that extension. The deadline is in just a couple of weeks on October 15th. Around 131,000 Kansans asked for an extension. To avoid delays, the IRS urges everyone to file electronically. There are some taxpayers who might have more time. An IRS spokesman says military members and others serving in a combat zone normally have 180 days after they leave the zone to file and pay any due taxes. Spokesman also said that taxpayers in federally declared disaster areas who already had valid extensions may have their deadline extended. A Missouri lawmaker is demanding that Springfield's public schools turn over 3 years' worth of staff emails and other documents with references to critical race theory and more than 24 other words or phrases. School district says they need at least $170,000 to get started. Republican State Representative Craig Fischel filed his Sunshine Law request in early September. Fischel is accusing the district of inflating the potential cost and said he may ask the House to subpoena the records. District spokesperson Stephen Hall said Fischel's request is, quote, extraordinarily broad and could require thousands of hours of staff time. 1,000 trees are finding new homes in Joplin and Kansas City. Spire Natural Gas partnered with Forest Relief of Missouri to distribute the trees as part of what Spire calls its commitment to communities and the environment. Yesterday, Spire volunteers loaded and transported the trees to sites where 25 organizations, including churches, neighborhood associations, and city parks, picked them up at no cost. Volunteer effort is part of Spire's Day for Good initiative, which gives employees 8 hours of paid leave each year to support an organization or cause of their choice. Missouri Southern's Japan semester continues in the Spiva Gallery with an exhibit of the works of an artist called Nishi. His medium is pottery, through which he says he strives to create work that resonates within himself and brings out inner peace, and hopes that the natural simplicity of his pottery can bring the same peace to others.
In the Western world, paintings and sculptures are sort of the high point, whereas in the Asian world, ceramics is right up there with painting and sculpture in importance, as well as paper and fibers and a lot of other things that in the West that we would kind of consider to be secondary.
This week's Japan semester offerings also include a presentation called Black Ships to Little Boy, a history of American-Japanese relations. KOAM General Manager Danny Thomas is a Hall of Famer. The Kansas Association of Broadcasters inducted Danny into its Hall of Fame during a ceremony. Danny has served for 34 years at KOAM. During that time, he oversaw the launch of our sister station, Fox 14, spearheaded numerous telethons, including one that helped launch construction of the Ronald McDonald House. KAB Hall of Fame Award is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by the Kansas Association of Broadcasters. We congratulate you, Danny. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, there's a town for sale in Tennessee. Plus, Japan gets a new prime minister. We'll have the latest, but first, it's 5:37.
We go from the high 40s, low 50s, all the way to the mid 70s. Get some early sunshine before a cloud cover begins to move in and just a little northeasterly breeze. That cloud cover should prevent us from dropping down to the 40s, though, for Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. Any rain that we do see is a little bit more widespread Wednesday afternoon and early evening. Then we get more sunshine and warmer temperatures on Thursday and Friday. Be back with World Watch next.
What's your
Topping World Watch, Portugal is a country that understands the critical importance of vaccinations. The nation was hit hard by COVID-19 at the beginning of the year, reporting one of the world's worst surges. Portugal has gone from worst to first thanks to the highest vaccination rate on the planet. Vasco Cotovio reports.
Meet Vice Admiral Henrique Gouveia Melo. He led Portugal's vaccination campaign and has become somewhat of a hero for the Portuguese. The country now has the highest vaccination rate of any nation, but despite the credit he's getting, Admiral Gouveia Melo tells me hero is a title he feels uncomfortable with.
I think that's an overstatement. Luckily, I was able to help my people, to help my country, and that fills my heart, and it's good enough.
Admiral Gouveia Melo and his military unit ran the campaign from what they called their war room, facing the virus like the enemy they believe it is.
I've worn combat fatigues from day one to show people this was no joke. In less than a year and a half, we lost 18,000 people to this virus. If this isn't a battle, what is?
The worst of that battle happened earlier in the year. When CNN visited in January, ICUs had no beds to spare, health authorities had to move patients around to free up much-needed space, and doctors told us they were forced to decide which cases to prioritize. The German military flew in to help out, and strict restrictions to curb the spread of the disease emptied the capital, Lisbon. But fast forward 8 months and the situation is now completely different. Businesses are open and tourists are back. The turnaround started in centers like this. 20-year-old Alana Silva knows all too well what it's like to get COVID-19. She recovered a few months ago and now she says it's a great comfort to get the vaccine.
Even though you can still get COVID despite having had the vaccine, the symptoms will be milder. So I'm quite relieved.
She's one of only a dozen people at this vaccination center. They're mostly empty these days because there are simply very few left to vaccinate. But for the Admiral, the war's not over until the enemy is defeated on a global scale.
We need to protect mankind. Rich countries have a moral obligation to do it. Every delay, every action we don't take will have a boomerang effect, and we will regret it in the future. It's a strategy that is both wrong and stupid.
Gouveia sees COVID as an opportunistic enemy, and until the world is vaccinated, no country, not even Portugal, can afford to fully let its guard down. Vasco Tevio, CNN, Lisbon.
Japan has a new prime minister after a special session of parliament on Monday. Fumio Kishida takes the reins of the world's third largest economy while navigating the coronavirus pandemic and regional challenges like North Korea. 64-year-old Kishida emerged as the winner of a hotly contested party leadership election last week. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, playing hooky. Some people out there, you know who you are. Maybe you falsified a doctor's note or forged a parent's signature to get out of class at some point in your life. Now, doesn't beat what this kid in Atlanta did. Lin-Manuel Miranda simply took a video of himself with the family and said, guess what? We got Hamilton tickets and we're not going to be there for that history test. I don't even know if we had found out what the teacher thought about it. The teacher was probably thinking, hey, I get it, but where are my tickets? You know? If you're going to skip my class, you can at least help me out a little bit. Our question for you specifically, when's the last time you played hooky? Now, this doesn't have to be from school. We could call it work as well. 89% of you saying, nah, you don't even remember the last time. 11% of you, hopefully you didn't do that over the weekend, say it was just days ago. You can always take part by going to komnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via our KOM News Now Facebook page. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Joplin City Council last night approved an ordinance for architectural design services for a new fire station. The new station will be on a 2-acre land in the approximate area of 30th Street and Jaguar Road. Paragon Architecture LLC out of Springfield will handle the services, which will cost more than $290,000. A landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains, CVS, Walgreens, Giant Eagle, and Walmart, in a legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chains that dispensed hundreds of prescriptions should be held responsible for the cost of opioid addictions. Pharmacies have denied wrongdoing. The trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks. Former Republican Congressman Todd Akin of Missouri has died. Akin's son Perry says in a statement that his father died late Sunday at age 74 from cancer. Akin represented a Republican-leaning eastern Missouri district that included St. Louis area suburbs for 12 years before running for the Senate. Missouri Southern's Japan semester continues this week in the Spiva Gallery with an exhibit of the works of an artist called Nishi. His medium is pottery, through which he says he strives to create work that resonates within himself, brings out inner peace, and hopes that the natural simplicity of his pottery can bring the same peace to others. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
get consistent here. I know we're only 4 full days in, but look at that, since the beginning of October, 79, 76, 78, 79. And we'll be a little bit lower than that today. I think we'll top out around 75 degrees for our Tuesday. Current conditions over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin, 50 degrees, but that humidity is playing a little bit of a factor here. It's at 93%. We've dropped as low as 48 and 47 in Pittsburgh and Fort Scott, respectively. A whole bunch of 50s and 51s on the board after that. And 54 appears to be our high number right now in Chanute. Now, while we've got a clean Skywatch storm tracker, we also are picking up some patchy fog. Visibility numbers not running too bad, but I'll kind of pick on the same areas as what I did yesterday. Highway 69 and I-49 running north and south. And if it gets any worse, of course, we'll come back and revisit it. But we don't even have any dense fog advisories up for the time being, so we'll call that a winter. Got rain from the Gulf Coast up to the Tennessee River Valley, and then monsoonal rain through portions of Arizona. Everything on the east side of the Mississippi is actually going to be able to make it to the mid-Atlantic. Just kind of make a little west to east push. Everything down in Arizona is going to be pretty isolated down there. As far as our watches and warnings go, you can tell if we go down there into the Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia triumvirate, and they've got flash flood watches in effect all the way until tonight. And then that white that you see on top of it that ranges from Tennessee all the way to southern New York, those are fog advisories. It's a special weather statement specifically for fog. And so that's rather impressive as far as geographically how far that spreads. Let's run down to the Atlantic Basin. While we do not have a named storm at the time, this is the one that we're going to be keeping our eyes on, posing some problems for the Bahamas right now. And it's going to move northwest. And so eventually it's headed toward the mid-Atlantic coast. And there's going to be another low pressure that it's going to combo with. So like I said, the potential for it becoming a named storm still remains low. That's something we'll keep our eyes on here. We're going to make it up into the mid-70s today. We'll get a little afternoon and evening cloud cover, but that'll keep us out of the 40s for tomorrow morning. Any rain that we see is very, very light for today. Wednesday afternoon, probably our best chance for rain this week as it turns counterclockwise, throws it at us from the east of the Ozarks and central Missouri. And then we clear off on Thursday. And by the time we get to Friday, a little taste of that heat returns. Remember that average high I was talking about of 78? Well, we're going to cruise past that for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before we return to it with a little rainfall on Monday as well. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
We're here to... Well, investing in real estate in Middle Tennessee is a trend in the state. Clarksville, Murfreesboro, and Franklin are some of the most in-demand Nashville suburbs. But what about Water Valley? Well, as Hannah McDonald shows us, the town itself is on the market in Maury County.
Although it sounds a lot like the premise of a popular Netflix sitcom, this town is seriously for sale.
I have had a few people, yes, mention that the Schitt's Creek television series, as well as we've had a couple of calls from Hollywood asking if they might buy the whole town to use as a movie set.
While the setting sure is picture perfect, the big screen is likely not in this tiny town's future.
It would really kind of strip this of the reality of the history and make it more of a stage rather than something that we preserve as the history of Tennessee.
Real estate agent Krista Schwartz represents the 4 people selling historic Water Valley.
The sellers right now would really hope that whoever gets it, first of all, doesn't tear down any of the buildings that are here.
4 general stores from the early 1900s.
That's the original depot back in 1919.
A barn, a residence, and a creek.
Leapers Creek, and you get creek frontage on both sides.
Are on the market for $725,000.
I think that this is very much a steal for someone who has more money to invest in it to make it what it should be. This is an incredible bargain.
The town is listed for less than some homes are selling for, just down the street in Williamson County.
That's an apple picker up there for the apple trees that this valley was famous for.
Plus, the contents and character of this community you just can't find anywhere else.
In this area, and the beauty and the quietness and the cattle in the road, we really want history of Tennessee to shine.
A Water Valley sequel.
And be carried into the future.
Now, wouldn't that be something? Hannah McDonald, News Channel 5.
I don't know. It sounds like a steal to me, Michael.
I'm good. Too much work on infrastructure.
I'm still leaning towards buying that island.
Too much mowing. Not true. No such thing as too much mowing.
Too many mosquitoes.
When you buy it, you can hire me to do your grounds crew.
No, I'm buying an island, Michael. We've talked about this.
Well, sand needs raked too.
You can, okay, if that's the job you want.
Yeah. I mean, golf courses have sand too. You got to keep them, looking good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tanya, something to talk about this morning has to deal with this kid in Atlanta who actually got a little free pass on a history exam because Lin-Manuel Miranda, right there, simply grabbed the kid's phone and was like, look, you're going to see Hamilton, I'm taking you. And when the star of Hamilton says, I'm taking you to see the performance, you're like, hey, can you help me get out of my test? Which you did. Our question to you, when's the last time you played hooky? Right now, 91%, let me change that, 91% of you don't even remember. 9% say a couple days ago. You can always be heard by going to komnewsnow.com/vote. Be right back after this. Sunrise at 7:17, then we begin our warm-up. We'll have mid-70s and sunshine early. A little cloud cover develops. Anything that we do see rain-wise going to be very, very light. A little more widespread on Wednesday. Be back right after this.
Coming up, a lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies and their role in the opioid epidemic goes to trial. And a Missouri prisoner counts down the minutes to his execution. Also, if you filed for a tax extension in Kansas and still have not filed, the deadline is almost here.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Let's go to Michael with a first look at your forecast.
Got a little patchy fog out there. Have not picked up any dense fog advisories. Everything at 7th and Range Line absolutely perfect right now, albeit it is a little bit cool. 49 degrees is where we stand. Can't really say the fog comes as a surprise with that temperature all the way up to 93%. Temperatures ranging anywhere from 48s. Looks like we've got a whole bunch more of those now, whether it be Welch or Oswego, Pittsburgh or Fort Scott, up to 54. Chanute's been the lone one sitting at 54 all morning long. 50 in Miami and 50 as well in Carthage. It's a clean Skywatch storm tracker. Here as we get closer to 7:17, which is sunrise. We get a better idea of laying our eyes on the fog from our tower cams, but our visibility readings and this observation data that you're looking at right now doesn't seem to be too bad. Once again, I prefer the boots on the ground and the live look on the tower cam sometimes than I do to a computer reading. Skywatch storm tracker keeping the rain down to the deep south, eventually headed toward the mid-Atlantic, and monsoonal rain out in Arizona. Either side of that, it is going to stay on the calm and mostly dry side. I say mostly dry because when we get to the 7-day forecast, you will notice a 10% chance of some light rain for today, but that's all it will amount to. Light rain if we see any of it. And then as we push toward Wednesday, especially Wednesday afternoon, that's where we'll see a little bit more widespread as it kicks out from east of the Ozarks and central Missouri. And our temperatures, well, we are headed in one direction, and that is straight up on the mercury. We're talking 88 by the time we get to Friday, 90 on Saturday.
Definitely going to be a hot one this weekend, so enjoy these temperatures while they last.
Yeah, think about that. We're sitting at, we've got 48s out there right now. We're going to be talking about 88s and 90s here in about 72 hours.
Yeah, big change. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains: CVS, Walgreens, Giant Eagle, and Walmart, in a legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chains that dispensed hundreds of prescriptions should be held responsible for the cost of the opioid addictions. Pharmacies have denied wrongdoing. The trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks. Missouri Governor Mike Parson denies clemency to a death row inmate despite calls from across the world. Pope Francis joined the chorus of people calling on Governor Parson to grant clemency to Ernest Johnson for killing 3 people during a 1994 convenience store robbery. Johnson is scheduled to die by injection at 6 p.m. tonight at the state prison in Bonne Terre. 61-year-old's attorney Jeremy Weiss said executing Johnson would violate the U.S. Constitution. It prohibits executing intellectually disabled people. If Johnson is put to death this evening, it would be the 7th execution in the U.S. this year, but the first not involving either a federal inmate or an inmate in Texas. 4 staters who asked for an extension on their tax returns are running out of time on that extension. The deadline is in just a couple of weeks, October 15th. Around 131,000 Kansans asked for an extension. To avoid delays, the IRS urges everyone to file electronically, and there are some taxpayers who might have more time. An IRS spokesman says military members and others serving in a combat zone normally have 180 days after they leave the zone to file and pay any due taxes. Spokesman also said that taxpayers in federally declared disaster areas who already had valid extensions may have their deadline extended. Pitt State handed out its vaccination incentives to eligible students. The university gave students until September 17th to submit proof of vaccination to get a $500 scholarship and to be entered into a drawing to win an $8,500 scholarship. Nearly 4,500 students were eligible. 55% of those submitted valid vaccination records and got the incentives. University employees who got vaccinated each got a $1,000 incentive. The incentives were funded by the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. Pfizer announces a new COVID-19 vaccine will be needed by mid-2022. Despite that announcement, one local pharmacist we spoke with says new vaccines are not something new. The flu vaccine is new every year it's offered because it's changed to combat the expected flu strains for the upcoming season. Chad Isaacs with Stone's Corner Pharmacy says we should expect the same with COVID vaccines as time goes on.
But that vaccine's going to change too. Just like the flu vaccine, we're going to have changes because of that virus changing and mutating. You know, the Delta variant and other things have cropped up, and the current vaccine has still been pretty effective against that. But come next year and years to come, that may change.
Important to remember to get your flu shot as the number of cases are on the rise this year. Joplin City Council last night approved an ordinance for architectural design services for a new fire station. The new station will be on a 2-acre land in the approximate area of 30th Street and Jaguar Road. Paragon Architecture LLC out of Springfield will handle the services, which will cost more than $290,000.
And needed coverage in an area that's growing with a lot of valuable property, being near the industrial park. It's positioned well for future growth and expansion, and so it'll be a great addition and really improve the safety services for our community.
Council member Phil Stinnett voted against the ordinance. One reason why is that he believed a local company could have done it. The council also approved a $2 million ordinance to replace the Joplin Creek interceptor. 1,000 trees are finding new homes in Joplin and Kansas City. Spire Natural Gas partnered with Forest Relief of Missouri to distribute the trees as part of what Spire calls its commitment to communities and the environment. Yesterday, Spire volunteers loaded and transported the trees to sites where 25 organizations, including churches, neighborhood associations, and city parks, picked them up at no cost. The volunteer effort is part of Spire's Day for Good initiative, which gives employees 8 hours of paid leave each year to support an organization or a cause of their choice. KOAM General Manager Danny Thomas is a Hall of Famer. The Kansas Association of Broadcasters inducted Danny into its Hall of Fame during a ceremony on Sunday. Danny has served 34 years at KOAM. During that time, he oversaw the launch of our sister station, Fox 14, spearheaded numerous telethons, including one that helped launch construction of the Ronald McDonald House. The KAB Hall of Fame Award is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by the Kansas Association of Broadcasters. We also want to congratulate you, Danny. 6:07.
Big congratulations to Mr. Thomas there. Very well deserved, to say the least. Skywatch storm tracker here in the 4 states, clear as can be. Not a worry in the world. Temperatures a little chilly right now. We've been as low as 48 degrees, but eventually let that sunshine kick in after it rises at 7:17, and we'll be on our way to mid-70s. Light chance for a raindrop. Really kind of a little more scattered though on Wednesday. Then as we head toward the weekend, get ready for a little return taste of summer as we're talking about high 80s on Friday, even 90s coming at us just in time for Saturday.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Facebook and Instagram reboot after a worldwide outage. Plus, how effective is the Pfizer vaccine against hospitalizations? And we take a look at what the Supreme Court has on its docket. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, stocks take a hit, especially Facebook stocks. Also, a digital clothing platform rebounds and Barbie goes to space. Here's Diane King Hall.
The tech sector led a Wall Street sell-off on Monday. The Dow dropped 323 points. The Nasdaq tumbled 311, and the S&P 500 was down 56. Facebook was hit especially hard yesterday after an outage that shut the social media site down for hours. Shares of the company fell more than 4%. Facebook and its other platforms, Instagram and WhatsApp, were offline for more than 6 hours. Facebook blames a technical glitch and says there's no evidence user data was compromised. Rent the Runway is going public. The digital clothing rental platform said its subscriber numbers were significantly down during the coronavirus pandemic, but have started to rebound now that people are going back out in public more. Last year, Rent the Runway raised funds to give it a $750 million valuation, below the $1 billion valuation it previously held. Move over, Bezos. It's Barbie's turn in space. This new doll is based on Italian astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti, who will become Europe's first female astronaut to command the International Space Station. And she'll have the new Barbie doll based on her likeness by her side. The doll already got some training, including a zero-gravity flight. It's all part of an effort to inspire young girls to choose careers in space.
You go, Barbie. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back.
Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp up and running again after going dark for several hours yesterday. Bradley Blackburn shows us how the mysterious worldwide outage came amid harsh new scrutiny for Facebook over both its business practices and its ethics.
Facebook and its associated apps like Instagram are back online after an unprecedented outage on Monday.
This is a global outage. This is across the earth.
The social media giant's services were down for about 6 hours, locking out its billions of users and reportedly even some of its own employees.
Could be a hacktivist that is trying to make a statement. I find it very hard to believe that this is just a typical outage, especially when it's taken down in such a large scale.
Facebook's chief technology officer apologized for the disruption, which he attributed to networking issues.
I am cautious to assign any kind of malicious activity to these things because a lot of times, more often than not, it turns out that there was an internal slip up.
The outage came at a crucial time for Facebook. On Tuesday, a Senate subcommittee will hear from product manager turned whistleblower Frances Haugen.
Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money.
She says Facebook knew its platforms were being used to spread misinformation, but did little to stop it because controversial content drove user engagement. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Statement last night again attributing the outage to a network disruption. Company says it has no evidence to believe any user data was compromised. From the online world to the real world. Here we go, 7th and Range line, where the fog never a problem out there. But I'm telling you, each time I take a step outside into the KOAM parking lot, I can tell you it's getting thicker as we progress through our morning, and we won't have sunrise for another hour. Matter of fact, hour on the nose. We'll roll 7:17 with sunrise over Joplin on this October the 5th. 49 degrees right now over the intersection, 49 as well in Parsons. 54 in Chanute. That's been our one spot that's been consistently in the mid-50s right there. Now we're seeing Anderson and Carthage sit at 50 along with Miami as well. No worries on the Skywatch storm tracker. As a matter of fact, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous morning to take in some stars. Got some planets sitting out there as well, and can't beat it. Let's talk a little bit about the fog because the visibility numbers aren't bad. I need a little sunlight here to actually show you from the tower cam about what we're experiencing. So just like what we did yesterday, let's go ahead and plan on making it more so Highway 69 and I-49, especially when you get kind of that Pittsburgh-Lamar line, which I know that would be, out 126 and 160 running east-west. But that's where you get some low-lying areas on both of 69 and 49 as well. So just want everybody to be apprised of that situation. Working on a cutoff low here on the mid-level jet stream. Hasn't quite cut off here because it does sweep down to the Gulf Coast, grab that moisture, and then force it up toward the mid-Atlantic. And we get a cutoff lows when we get the actual circle, and we see more of those out west by the Four Corners. Speaking of out west, got some monsoonal rain coming down through Arizona. And when we put on the severe thunderstorm risk map, that's exactly what we're talking about for the rest of the day. You can tell, though, the thunderstorm activity does make its way all the way to the mid-Atlantic before it finally wants to subside. Not a whole lot of action watch and warning wise. If we look down to the deep south, you'll see a whole bunch of green. They do have flash flooding concerns for the afternoon into the evening. And then on top of that, all that white that you see, those are special weather statements, just kind of the new nomenclature that the National Weather Service went to beginning September 1. It's a special weather statement indicating what would previously be a dense fog advisory. So that's a pretty good stretch of fog out there. While we don't have any named storms right now in the Atlantic Basin, it's pretty easy to see what it's trying to generate. There it is right there. And it's going to take a couple of days, but the fact that this is going to move to the northwest kind of puts it on a collision course with the mid-Atlantic seaboard. And so, by Friday, Saturday, we're going to be talking about that a little bit. It's slow moving right now, that's for sure. We'll get sunshine for the morning hours, a little cloud development for afternoon and evening. Any rain that we do see is going to be very light and scattered. Don't think we'll really pick up any lightning with it. Now, Wednesday, especially during the afternoon, look how it turns counterclockwise, and so that will bring us some scattered rainfall for Wednesday. Temperatures, though, still very, very nice. No cold front behind it, anything of that nature, to the point where we're going to be talking about very warm temperatures for the weekend. 88 on Friday, 90 on Saturday. We'll be back with Healthwatch right after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, researchers find disparities in deaths related to the pandemic and how well Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine is doing at keeping people out of the hospital. Bradley Blackburn has today's top health stories.
New research shows 2 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine are 90% effective at preventing hospitalization for at least 6 months. That's true for all variants of the virus, including Delta. The study in The Lancet from Pfizer and Kaiser Permanente also found that while protection against hospitalizations remains strong over time, effectiveness against infection itself declines to 47% after 6 months. Pandemic-related deaths are disproportionately affecting Black, Latino, and Native American men and women, according to research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Researchers evaluating nearly 500,000 excess deaths from the first 9 months of the pandemic found double the number of deaths among Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans when compared to white and Asian Americans. The study authors say structural racism and inequitable vaccine distribution play a role. And 1 in 10 people around the world suffers from pain after eating meals. A new survey from Belgian and Swedish researchers found 13% of women and 9% of men report frequent abdominal pain after eating. Researchers say it shows how prevalent digestive problems are, and people with frequent attacks also have higher rates of depression and anxiety. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Let's start with the 7-day forecast, talk about our temperatures for the middle of the week and headed into the weekend, because we're going to get two beautiful October days on Tuesday and Wednesday. And even though we see those rain chances on Wednesday, they're just going to be scattered and rather light. But look at what we're headed for. We're talking about high 80s on Fridays and then 90s on Saturday, even Sunday. Even though we get to drop back down a little bit, that's still pretty warm for this time of year. Now Monday gets a little better. You'll also notice Monday is going to bring us scattered showers. So light rain on Wednesday and then scattered throughout Sunday into Monday morning. We'll be back right after this.
Coming up, a lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies and their role in the opioid epidemic goes to trial. And a Missouri prisoner counts down the minutes to his execution. Also, if you filed for a tax extension in Kansas and still have not filed, the deadline is almost here.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll have those stories and more coming up. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch weather center.
Fog's really our only concern on this Tuesday morning. It's because our humidity is so high. Temperatures are nice and cool for an October morning. 49 right now in Joplin, but once again, 93% is where that humidity sits. And so it's going to take a while before it begins to burn off because we've still got about 50 minutes until sunrise. 7:17 is what we'll call sunrise today. 50 in Carthage. Chanute have been holding steady at 54. 50 in Miami and 48s running from Pittsburgh up to Fort Scott and then over Highway 54 to Nevada. It's a Skywatch storm tracker that if you get above the fog, beautiful shot of the sky. And while the fog tracker doesn't look too bad, waiting on the sky to lighten up a little bit. That way we get a first-hand look from our tower cams. Everything down by the deep south going to make its way to the mid-Atlantic today for thunderstorm activity, and everything that you see pouring down in Arizona, it's going to isolate there. And so we'll have sunshine early before a little late afternoon evening cloud cover and be able to stay in the mid-70s. Now, you see when we get to the old 7-day forecast, we do put a 10% shot for rain in here. Just a little bit rolls into the northeastern section of the 4 states. Wednesday, excuse me, a little bit more widespread as it kicks over in a counterclockwise fashion, but still not looking at anything severe, and our accumulation numbers will be minimal at best. Warming up after that, high 70s on Thursday, high 80s on Friday, still staring 90 in the face on Saturday.
Yes, definitely going to be warm on Saturday. Not looking forward to that one, but
I think
the
in
cool down leading
October,
up
we're
to
going to
it.
go ahead and call that hot.
Yeah. Not quite stifling though?
Nah.
We'll get through it.
Nah, won't be bad.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains in a legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Naomi Ruckham has more on the trial.
Pharmacies doled out a never-ending parade of prescription painkillers in Lake and Trumbull counties in northeast Ohio between 2012 and 2016, enough for 400 pills for every person who lived in Trumbull County. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chains that dispensed many of those prescriptions, CVS, Walgreens, Giant Eagle, and Walmart, should be held responsible for the costs of opioid addictions. Another chain, Rite Aid, reached a settlement with the counties. Opening arguments began Monday in a jury trial, the first time pharmacy companies have gone to trial for their potential role in the opioid crisis. Another federal lawsuit in Ohio against the nation's 3 largest drug distribution companies was settled for $260 million just before it went to trial in 2019.
This settlement helps us address the mitigation of the terrible damage that's been caused.
Fawn Goodell is the director of Ohio Start, a program that works with families struggling with substance abuse.
How bad really is it in Ohio from your eyes?
Currently this year, the last statistics that I had heard, we are on pace to have more overdoses this year than we did in 2017, which is when we think of the height of the opioid epidemic.
If the counties win in court, any judgment could be used to tackle the crisis.
We need to make sure that we're getting services to families and kids any way we can, and sometimes that comes through money and accountability.
The trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks.
A lawyer representing the Ohio county said in his opening statement that oversight failures by the pharmacy chains helped fuel the opioid crisis. Missouri Governor Mike Parson denies clemency to a death row inmate despite calls from across the world. Pope Francis joined the chorus of people calling on Governor Parson to grant clemency to Ernest Johnson for killing 3 people during a 1994 convenience store robbery. Johnson is scheduled to die by injection at 6 p.m. tonight at the state prison in Bonne Terre. 61-year-old attorney Jeremy Weiss said executing Johnson would violate the U.S. Constitution. It prohibits executing intellectually disabled people. If Johnson is put to death this evening, it would be the 7th execution in the U.S. this year, but the first not involving either a federal inmate or an inmate in Texas. 4 staters who asked for an extension on their tax returns are running out of time on that extension. The deadline is in just a couple of weeks, October 15th. Around 131,000 Kansans asked for an extension. To avoid delays, the IRS urges everyone to file electronically. There are some taxpayers who might have more time. An IRS spokesman says military members and others serving in a combat zone normally have 180 days after they leave the zone to file and pay any due taxes. Spokesman also said that taxpayers in federally declared disaster areas who already had valid extensions may have their deadline extended. A Missouri lawmaker is demanding Springfield's public schools turn over 3 years' worth of staff emails and other documents with references to critical race theory, more than 24 other words or phrases. School district says they need at least $170,000 to get started. Republican State Representative Craig Fischel filed his Sunshine Law request in early September. Fischel is accusing the district of inflating the potential cost and said he may ask the House to subpoena the records. District spokesperson Stephen Hall said Fischel's request is, quote, extraordinarily broad and could require thousands of hours of staff time. 1,000 trees are finding new homes in Joplin and Kansas City. Spire Natural Gas partnered with Forest Relief of Missouri to distribute the trees as part of what Spire calls its commitment to communities and the environment. Yesterday, Spire volunteers loaded and transported the trees to sites where 25 organizations, including churches, neighborhood associations, and city parks, picked them up at no cost. The volunteer effort is part of Spire's Day for Good initiative, which gives employees 8 hours of paid leave each year to support an organization or cause of their choice. Missouri Southern's Japan semester continues this week in the Spiva Gallery with an exhibit of the works of an artist called Nishi. His medium is pottery, through which he says he strives to create work that resonates within himself, brings out inner peace, and hopes that the natural simplicity of his pottery can bring the same peace to others.
In the Western world, paintings and sculptures are sort of the high point, whereas in the Asian world, ceramics is right up there with painting and sculpture in importance, as well as paper and fibers and a lot of other things that in the West that we would kind of consider to be secondary.
This week's Japan semester offerings also included a presentation called Black Ships to Little Boy, History of American-Japanese Relations. KOAM General Manager Danny Thomas is a Hall of Famer. The Kansas Association of Broadcasters inducted Danny into its Hall of Fame during a ceremony on Sunday. Danny has served for 34 years at KOAM. During that time, he oversaw the launch of our sister station, Fox 14, spearheaded numerous telethons, including one that helped launch construction of the Ronald McDonald House. The KAB Hall of Fame Award is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by the Kansas Association of Broadcasters. Congratulations, Mr. Thomas. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, the Supreme Court is back in session. Plus, feel like playing hooky? We're going to let you weigh in. But first, it's 6:37.
And well-deserved honor there from Mr. Thomas. Congratulations, Danny. We got seasonable fall weather for today. Sunshine early, which we need to help burn off some of this early morning fog. We'll get a little cloud that'll develop later this afternoon. Just a slight chance for rain today, main so, northeastern portion of the 4 states, and it'll be light. And then Wednesday we get a little more sporadic and widespread as it kicks in east of the Ozarks toward us. After that, get ready for a little bit of a hot weekend. We're going to see our daily high temperatures jump some 10 degrees from Thursday to Friday and still eyeballing 90s there on Saturday. We'll be back with Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, the Supreme Court started a new term yesterday with several hot-button issues front and center, including abortion and gun rights. The new term comes as the court faces scrutiny over its decision not to hear arguments on a Texas law which bans abortion after 6 weeks. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively is in Washington with more.
Protesters marched outside the Supreme Court on Monday, while inside, for the first time in more than a year and a half, the justices were back on the bench.
God save the United States and this honorable court.
The first oral arguments involved water rights and criminal law, but the blockbuster cases the 6-3 conservative court will decide this term center around guns, religion, and abortion. On guns, they'll weigh in on New York's strict regulations for licensing concealed carry handguns. On religion, they're set to take up cases involving an execution and also school choice. Perhaps most closely watched, a ruling on a Mississippi law banning abortion after 15 weeks. About a dozen more states have passed restrictions, and last month, the court refused to take up a Texas law prohibiting most abortions.
Everyone has been focusing on the Texas abortion law, but sitting on the docket is something that could really roll back on Roe v. Wade.
This as public opinion of the Supreme Court is at its lowest level in 2 decades. A recent Gallup poll showing confidence and trust in the judicial branch dropped from 67% to 54%.
We also have the Biden commission looking at the question of whether there ought to be Supreme Court reform. So yeah, there is a bit of a heightened level of concern on the part of the justices that the public is losing faith in the court.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh participated remotely after testing positive for a breakthrough case of COVID. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Yesterday, police were first called to a Chicago apartment building for a gunshot victim nearby, and then a fire broke out in the same building. They found an unresponsive person in an alley who was pronounced dead afterwards, but it was not clear whether that person had actually been shot. Just afterwards, a fire broke out on the 7th floor of the building right above the alley. Turned out a stove was on fire. Several people were inside the building when everything took place. Firefighters and police officers raced inside the building, trying to get everyone out safely. Police are still trying to determine what happened with the man who was believed to have been shot. Authorities are still trying to figure out whether that incident was connected with the fire. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll talking about playing hooky. There are some people out there that you know who you are. Maybe you falsified that doctor's report, made that phone call, said you Marcus, keep up with me on prompter, said that you were sick. Somebody keep up. All right, so here's the deal. That's Lin-Manuel Miranda there in the back. Well, there's a kid in Atlanta that had a history test, and instead of like having to falsify anything, see Luke back there? He just had Lin-Manuel Miranda make a phone call and be like, so Mrs. Smith, we got tickets to that show I'm in. You may have heard of it. It's called Hamilton. That's one way to get out of it right there. Our question to you, when's the last time you played hooky? 78% of you chiming in saying, don't even remember. 5% evidently just recently did it, and a couple of you saying months ago. And we're not just talking about school, we're just talking about from anything that you may have had obligations to be at. All you have to do to make your voice heard is go to komnewsnow.com/vote or connect with us via our Facebook page as well. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Private Charles Ramsey, who served in the United States Army in 1918. He was stationed in Nebraska. His hometown, Pitcher, Oklahoma. We're proud to salute Charles Ramsey, our four-state hero.
This begins with the man in the black hat. His name is Maxon King. Maxon, I love that get-up, man. You look great. Celebrating the big number 5 in St. Paul.
And we've got Parker Lohman turning 7 strong this year. Birthday was actually on Sunday. He's in Girard.
Bladen Pickle, number 9. Nice patriotic photo right there. Bladen, a very happy birthday in Knoll, and I want you to know that this comes with love from Mom, Dad, and your sisters.
And Bella Burks celebrating birthday number 10 this year. Bella is in Girard.
In Jasper, Kiana Smith has a 12th birthday. Off to school she is. Everybody out in Jasper, a little Eagle Pride right there. Make sure you wish Kiana happy birthday.
The Elliott brothers are celebrating in Erie, Kansas this year. First, we've got Cody, who's 15 years old, and his older brother Craig turning 23.
In Sarcoxy, we got a 40th birthday party. Cool picture right there, Kristen. I don't know when you got a chance to go out to the West Coast, but I hope you had a marvelous time. As Kristen celebrates her 40th with happy birthday wishes from your friend Katie.
Belated birthday wishes going out to Deborah Clower, who's now 64 in Columbus. Happy birthday, Deborah.
Lakin Westall, hey, happy birthday to you. Miss Lakin, she celebrates in St. Paul.
And in La Harpe, Larry and Cindy Kress are celebrating their 30th anniversary this year.
We've got a 35th anniversary. Ron and Dora Ware. That's called getting around in style right there. Congratulations, Ron and Dora.
All right, and we've got Sam Thomas in Columbus. Happy birthday to you. Janet Porter turning 70 in Fredonia. And in Pittsburgh, Jim Carlinger celebrating birthday number 72.
In Frontenac, Natasha Galindo, a happy 37th birthday. Now we go to Columbus. That's where Justice Hanaway celebrating her birthday. Miss Mary Holt, she is celebrating her 102nd birthday in Columbus as well. Happy birthday, Mary.
And we've got Joe, Miss Josephine Davenport turning 90 years old down in Miami, Oklahoma, with great birthday wishes from all the residents at the Route 66 Laundry.
Madeline Coons, we're going to go back to Columbus and wrap it up with Madeline's birthday. Madeline, I want you to have a marvelous, marvelous October 5th birthday for yourself as well. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's where you can send them into. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com or go to our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. Speaking of the website, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com. Sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Look at some of that patchy fog that I've been talking about. As the skies begin to lighten up outside of Television City, you can see it right there. Down on the ground and not as widespread as what we had yesterday. So that is a good sign now that we can kind of look off into the distance and see exactly how all-encompassing it is, managing to stave the majority off of Highway 69 from what I can tell on the tower cam. Skywatch storm tracker for today, average high would be 75 and we're going to be right on par with that. Cannot beat it. And I'll tell you what, let's go back, because by the time we get Saturday here, we're going to be looking at that record high column. I'm not going to challenge it today. Like I said, we'll be around 75. But go back to 1963, it was 91 degrees, and yeah, by the time we get to Friday and Saturday, we're going to be talking about challenging some October records. There we are over 7th and Rangeline. We're beginning to pick up a little traffic action here as we sit at 11 minutes till the top of the hour. It's a cool 49 degrees, and of course that humidity playing a factor of why we do have the fog. We've been as low as 47. Now it looks like we've rebounded to 48 in Welch, Pittsburgh, and Fort Scott. Chinook's been our high point all day long of 54, now being joined by Monette and Cassville at 54 as well. And Miami sits at an even 50. It's been a gorgeous, gorgeous morning. Still got a shot at some marvelous bright stars and what's left of the moon as we work towards sunrise at 7:17. And the reason I thought that tower cam was so important is because our fog tracker numbers have really not budged, but yet you walk out there with the naked eye and you knew the fog was apparent. As far as what we're looking at the Skywatch storm tracker, we've been concentrating on this moisture coming off of the Gulf Coast, making its way through the deep south. It'll eventually end up in the mid-Atlantic. But it just went through a multitude of storm reports that just came in off the West Coast in Los Angeles. They're dealing with 60-mile-an-hour winds and multiple road closures, including major highways, because limbs are down from the storm system that they had early this morning. And, you know, it's something to kind of keep our eyes on, because by the time we get to Wednesday night, and I've already looked at their forecast, it shouldn't be too bad. But Wednesday night, remember, that's when the St. Louis Cardinals will make the trip to play the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League wild card game. Our afternoon planner here in the 4 states, whole lot of sunshine, highs around 75, 76 degrees. Overnight, cloud cover actually will prevent us from dropping back down into the 40s. Any rain that we do see today, northeastern section of the 4 states, pretty light, very, very quick. And along with the clouds for Wednesday, here comes a little bit more scattered rain Wednesday afternoon, from the noon hour till probably say about 6, 7 o'clock is what we're looking at there. We could see limited amount of lightning, certainly not any hard rain like what we experienced last week. Then we can sit back and talk about those records, because we're going to approach a couple of them on Friday and on Saturday. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Final look at the Insta poll, asking when's the last time you played hooky, coming off the story of the kid down in Atlanta, Georgia, who evidently had a history test, but when the star of Hamilton calls your teacher, FaceTimes your teacher, and says, here's the deal, the kid's going with me to watch the performance. Yeah, I think that could probably be listed as a good reason. 80% of you, though, go, nah, I don't remember the last time I played hooky. I love that 4% of you just chimed in. We're like, this is days ago. It could be right now, for all I know. Could have, but man, if you're playing hooky, I hope you slept in. Not that Tanya and I aren't great TV, and we appreciate everybody watching. If you're going to play hooky, at least sleep in a little bit. Tanya?
Definitely. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Joplin City Council last night approved an ordinance for architectural design services for a new fire station. The new station will be on a 2-acre land in the approximate area of 30th Street and Jaguar Road. Paragon Architecture LLC out of Springfield will handle the services, which will cost more than $290,000. A landmark drug trial started yesterday in a federal courtroom in Cleveland. It pits 2 Ohio counties against 4 national pharmacy chains: CVS, Walgreens, Giant Eagle, and Walmart, in a legal reckoning over the opioid crisis. Attorneys for the counties say the national pharmacy chains that dispensed hundreds of prescriptions should be held responsible for the cost of opioid addictions. Pharmacies have denied wrongdoing. The trial is expected to last 6 or 7 weeks. Former Republican Congressman Todd Akin of Missouri has died. Akin's son Perry says in a statement that his father died late Sunday at age 74 from cancer. Akin represented a Republican-leaning eastern Missouri district that included St. Louis area suburbs for 12 years before running for the Senate. Missouri Southern's Japan semester continues this week in the Spiva Gallery with an exhibit of the works of an artist called Nishi. His medium is pottery, through which he says he strives to create work that resonates within himself and brings out inner peace, and hopes the natural simplicity of his pottery can bring the same peace to others. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Fog this morning, you can see it hovering down there. Visibility hasn't been too bad, but I want everybody to be apprised of that because of our high humidity. A little bit chilly out there too, ranging anywhere from about 48 to 54. Eventually we'll be up into the mid 70s. Seasonable fall weather for today with plenty of early sunshine. Clouds will develop here for the afternoon and evening. Positive aspect about that, I think we'll be able to avoid the 40s tomorrow morning. Rain, light and scattered. Northeastern section of the 4 states is where it'll be isolated for today. A little bit more widespread there on Wednesday. Not looking at anything severe though. And then Friday and Saturday, we're going to be talking about challenging some October record highs.
Coming up today at noon, if you've ever paid someone back in the form of a dessert, Howard has a suggestion for you with an Italian cream cake from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Of course, your morning news continues on KOAM, CBS Morning News. That's coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, Facebook's whistleblower testifies.
Interesting interview that you can also see on 60 Minutes coming up this Sunday right here on KOAM. Does it for this Tuesday edition. Hey, get out, enjoy some fresh air. Do me a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.